Good evening. I'm going to call this Dover-Sherborn Regional School Committee meeting to order. Today is June 11th, 2024, and we are meeting in the Dover-Sherborn Middle School Library. The time is now 5:35 p.m. First, I would like to welcome our two new members. We have Toa Ash joining us from Sherborn and Kevin Crotty joining us from Dover. So welcome to the Regional School Committee. At this time, I would like to invite a nomination for chair. We have two chairs, one from Dover, one from Sherborn. So would anybody like to nominate a chair?
I would. I'd like to nominate Mark Healy for the chair.
Do I have a second? A second. Any discussion?
No.
Oh, no. Kate, we have a nomination for Mark for chair. Sorry. It's okay. All in favor of Mark as chair? Okay, great. Now we have a co-chair from Sherborn.
For vice chair.
Vice chair, and then a secretary. So I'd like to invite a vice chair, since you are from Dover, vice chair from Sherborn.
Perfect.
Would you like to nominate?
Could I nominate Angie Johnson?
Okay. Is there a second for Angie's nomination?
Second.
Second, Colleen Burt. Any discussion? All in favor of Angie for vice chair? Colleen, yes, no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, excellent. That passes. And then we also need a nomination for a secretary. Would anybody like to make a nomination for Regional School Committee secretary?
Could I nominate Colleen?
Colleen Burt. Okay, is there a second for Colleen's nomination for secretary?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Great, and the motion passes. So congratulations to Mark, Vice Chair Angie, and Secretary Colleen.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
All right, so my job is done. Mark, take it over.
Okay. Next on the agenda is community comments. We've provided a Zoom link for those who wish to make a comment, but for whom it is not possible or preferred to attend and meet in person this evening. Are there any community comments?
There's nobody online. There's nobody in the audience.
Nope. Okay. And we don't need to read the next portion. Saves me time. This says superintendent comments coming up next. So Superintendent McCoy.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll be brief because my longer update will be during the joint meeting, which I'm sure you'll all appreciate. I'll leave for later. I just want to thank and express gratitude to a number of people. We celebrated Teacher and Educator Appreciation Week a few weeks ago, so thank you to Positive and PTO and all of our families for making a joyous celebration and showing lots of love and support for our educators. It was a great opportunity to recognize them, as well as our food service staff, our custodians, our principals, everybody that supports the school system. So lots of joy there. We are finishing the hiring season, which I will touch more upon during our joint meeting, but thanks to John and Ann for leading their teams through hiring some really phenomenal new educators. I get to meet them as kind of the final stage of the hiring and onboarding process, and I'm just so excited by the perspectives and the ideas that the educators they chose are going to bring to our schools. Finishing up evaluations for the school year, so our administrators are providing feedback to our educators to wrap up the year based on the goals they set way back in September, so those are continuing. And amongst all of those details and all that business, we have lots of end-of-year activities that are keeping our students very busy, our educators very busy, and our administrators even busier. So thank you for the field days, thank you for the graduation ceremonies, thank you for the dances, the athletic banquets, the boat cruises, all of the above. There's certainly a lot to celebrate, and our kids seem to be finishing out the year on a positive note. And congratulations, of course, to our many seniors who crossed the stage on Friday night instead of Thursday night, but Friday was a beautiful night. We had a great turnout, lots of great speeches from our students. No surprise there. They always shine at the microphone, and lots of happiness and gratitude as the students move on to the next stages of their life. So that's all I have right now. I'm happy to take questions or comments, but otherwise I'll leave the rest of my news for the joint meeting.
Quick comment. I think graduation was excellent. Thanks for allowing us to be there. I went my first time ever, and got the emotions out so that next year when my kid actually graduates, I'll just be able to enjoy the day. And
I don't know. You'll be probably handing her the diploma. That might be tough.
we'll see. Some of my kids' friends were texting them and like, your dad's on stage up there. Why is he up there? So it was a beautiful ceremony and a good day, a good way to celebrate.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, what's next?
So next we have the financial reports. Ms. Vittoria, would you please walk us through?
Yes, I will. So we have several guests here tonight, but our first guest is Bob Brown, who's our lead auditor on our annual audit, and takes us a little while to get there, but it's June, and we have it. And so in your packet was the final copy of the fiscal year 23 audited financial statements. It's a lot to take in. The financial statements aren't necessarily user-friendly for what you see from me, but it's what's required for GASB and the other, pulling all the pieces of the what's happening outside of what you see into financial statements for if we did borrowing or needed to share these financials with people that we want to do business with. So I will turn it over to Bob, and then this is your opportunity as well if you have any particular questions. We've actually got 3 experts here tonight who can answer those, and don't feel like you have to have any questions. We just offer that. So I will turn it over to Bob.
Good evening. We performed the fiscal 23 audit and rendered a clean opinion on all of the financial statements. The Government Accounting Standards Board, which prescribes generally accepted accounting principles, they do not make it easy for local governments. These statements, they start with your records, but we have to make a dozen or so adjustments to national accounting standards. And there's not just one set of statements. There's essentially 3 sets of statements here. The first set of statements is on page 9 through 11, and they're full accrual and like trying to make a 1-column balance sheet similar to businesses. So that takes your general fund, special revenue, capital projects, trust funds, brings them all together, but also converts them to full accrual. So you have all your fixed assets, your bonds payable, your pension liability, your post-employment benefits liability, and none of these things are in the balance sheet. You send to the, for your E&D in Massachusetts systems. There's a second set of statements on page 12 to 13. We refer to them as fund level statements. They're essentially cash basis with maybe a grant accrual or 2, but at least in there you see a general fund. So that's the one part of these statements that you can probably relate to your own records before all the changes we have to make. And the unassigned balance in the general fund was $1,153,000. So it was a good positive number. Page 16, we think is the most important statement. It's your budget statement. Generally accepted accounting principles make this optional to be a statement, or way in the back of the footnotes. We always promote it to be in as a full statement, and we put it there on page 16. The standards are changing in 2 years. They never liked it being a statement, and they're gonna push it to the back in a couple of years when they make a few other changes. But the district lives by its budget, and you had a net plus of $393,000. The district did use available funds of $385,000, so it was still a net plus for the year. Page 17 and 18 are a separate set of statements for the Post-Employment Benefits Trust Fund and Private Purpose Trust Funds. Private Purpose Trust Funds are for the benefit of individuals, so it's scholarships. And the information in these statements don't appear anywhere else. They're not rolled forward with the other statements. I always mention the state makes a contribution to the teacher retirement system for pensions for teachers. There was $3,893,000 last year. in the financial statements, we have to add that as revenue from the state and then an expense for employee benefits. So when you look at the general fund's P&L, if someone sees differences with the budget statement, the main item is that almost $4 million item. In the fiduciary statements, just mentioned page 18, the district made a contribution of $245,000. So it's a big liability, but you're making a good attempt at contributing each year. I have some towns that are doing very small contributions, and it's just not going to get them anywhere. But I know it took a while to get it going. School districts are dependent on their member towns who are also dealing with post-employment benefits liability, so it's been difficult. But you have established the approach, and they're funding it each year. The pension liability currently stands at $5.5 million, and the OPEB liability is $23 million. So in the full accrual statements, that's the main reason why there's a overall negative. But 10 years ago, these post-employment benefits liability wasn't even on your financials. That was a new occurrence that was brought in to keep moving it toward business model. His team does a good job. No audit adjustments, and everything went smoothly.
I'll just say, Bob mentioned it was our OPEB liability as of June 2023 as $23 million. If you remember when we set up the OPEB fund, it was $28 million. So although actuarial assumptions may be changing, just the fact that we actually are now contributing, and we have about $1 million too, our discount rate is going up, which makes that liability go down. So we started with like a 3% when we weren't doing any funding. We're at like 5% now. So it's sort of I wouldn't say if we had to liquidate, we wouldn't necessarily have to pay that $23 million, but that is sort of a actuarial estimate of employees' lives that we cover, for a long period of time. So I always happy to see the liability never go above that $28 million that we started. So I think that shows a good sign.
And there was no federal grant audit this year. The grants from the COVID era declined, and you went under the $750,000 limit for requiring the grant audit.
Yeah, I think the one thing that threw us over on that was that it's not federally funded free lunch anymore. It's state, and because it's state, it doesn't count towards the $750. So if you remember last year, we brought 2 audit reports forward, the single audit and the regular audit.
And that limit is moving up to $1 million. I'm not sure if it's 20. I think it's 25. But they should have put it at $2 million years ago. When you look at the amount of money that's going out, it was originally $500,000. All they did is move it to $750, and now they're only moving it to $1 million. Still a lot of audit requirements out there. For if they went to $2 million, they probably would have made half the audits, federal grant audits. Certainly in this state it would. Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking a look at our records, and thank you to John in the business office for making it somewhat easy for you by following the books and following the rules.
Anyone have any burning questions? Or okay, yeah. When you go home and study, there'll be a quiz in September. Yes. Thank you, Bob, and we appreciate his team. I've been here now for 8 years, and I've had the same people, so it's really nice to see them come back. And I think we work really well together. During the hybrid, they were taking stuff home, so it's I think we've made their job easier too, because we sort of do a hybrid with what work can be done in our office versus what can be done outside. So we appreciate all the efforts that you bring to this process. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, we actually are moving on to another financial. And as I mentioned to you in May, John is going to try to really retire somewhat and is leaving his role as district treasurer. We posted the job in May. had many qualified candidates. Colleen and Angie both joined me for interviews. And we were in agreement that we wanted to bring forward Patrick Collins. And I've included Pat's resume in the packet for you. I think he brings a great variety of experience, both in just regular school districts, but also he has worked in a regional vocational school and a year in Lincoln Sudbury, so has that regional experience. And so I think through the interview process, what he could bring, I think, to what John has already set up really well for us, made a great transition decision for us. So we are pleased to bring him forward for appointment by the school committee this evening. This is an annual appointment. We have it up in really true action items since it's not routine business and consent, because I wanted the opportunity to let Pat say a few words, and if anyone had any questions prior to the approval. Okay. So, Pat, I don't know if you just want to say a few words.
Sure. No, absolutely. Really appreciate the opportunity that's for me in working with Dawn and her team in the business office. John and I go back in terms of our career quite many years, and so having kind of a quiet pre-conversation with him about the district, learned a lot of very positive things that makes this an attractive opportunity, and certainly with the commitment of both Dawn and John to ensure a smooth transition. I think everything going forward would remain very stable, and certainly look forward to the opportunity to serve the Dover-Sherborn Regional School District in the school committee.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Welcome. And John, thank you for all of your service and support for the Dover-Sherborn schools. We're going to miss having you. It's always nice when the door opens and you go upstairs and you work with Dawn and the team, and we always feel more secure when you're here. So
thank you. As I told Pat, it's a great place, and all of the personnel in that second floor are top notch. Mm-hmm. So it makes it easy.
Thank you. Thanks. And Pat, I'm glad you got the memo that you're supposed to wear blue to Dover-Sherborn.
Yes. Standard.
Yeah.
You can trust financial people in blue.
Good to know. We can do that.
Yes. Would we run the motion to appoint now for a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, if you have questions.
I'm just curious about this. I mean, I know, Patrick, you had kind of applied and gone through an interview process, but from here on forward, is it just an annual motion to approve just to recommit?
Unless there's
right.
we don't like them anymore, but
Perfect.
No, it becomes right. I mean, it's pretty traditional just to bring it forward as a routine appointment from year to year.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
But it's required that they be appointed annually, so you can't give a longer term.
Okay. Makes good sense.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Patrick's no reflection on you. It's my first night doing this, so that's why I had to just check.
I'm on a short leash.
Perfect. Okay, so may I have a motion to appoint Patrick Collins as the new Dover-Sherborn Regional Public Schools Treasurer?
So moved. Colleen Burt.
Colleen Burt, so moved. May I have a second?
Kate Potter, second.
Kate Potter. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have excused these gentlemen so they can carry on with their evenings, and I appreciate everyone being here.
We're going to go look at the financials.
Yeah, okay.
You're hired.
Have a good time. Thank you all.
Good night.
All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Take care.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Feel better. John's going to continue with the warrants.
Yes.
Okay, so easy win. So you have the warrants that have been approved or signed by your designee, and I was going to wait till the end of the year and give you the folder that gets us through June 30th. So it'll probably be the middle of July.
Okay.
And I'll get all those to you. But this is what we have to date. And the large $1.4 million you see as just one of our debt payments went in on that warrant. So that's really what that is, along with that care. Okay, so moving on to the monthly financials. So you have your financial statements as of May 31st. As you can see, there's not a lot of new bold colors. I did just update the projected E&D to reflect that the school committee did approve the use of E&D for the $655,000 at our May meeting. You can see that we are down to projecting just about net surplus of about $300,000, which is about 1%, which is actually equals what Bob said that we had last year. So that 1% is usually where we are. I think that's pretty good. You don't want to get too tight, but the fact that I think that we produce budgets, even though we have fluctuations within categories, you can explain those of what's offsetting what. So it is always comforting to me to get to this point in the year and see where we've come against where we thought we were going to be. And then you have the updated roll forward for excess and deficiency. So your revenue and your operating surpluses that are sitting there now reflect our projections as of May 31st. We had a little bit of a higher projected operating surplus in what I presented to you in May as of April 30th, but obviously additional things have happened, and so we're down to the 311. And then you can see the uses of E&D, the capital that you approved last month, and then what we approved in March with the operating budget was the use of the $230,000. I will say, if you look at your net variance in revenues, the 186, when we did the budget back, approved it back in March, that number was higher. But when we got our first transportation payment, that's where it differed from the cherry sheet, and that's sort of what caused that difference. So we'd already put the 230 out there, so we didn't change it. But always remember that that's what we try to do. We try to take the surpluses from revenue and use that against the next year's fiscal budget in the theory that had we known we were going to have those revenues, they would have offset assessments. And so we're giving the towns the credit for that. So that's our methodology as we continue on. So we are looking at a projected E&D of about 2.64%, knowing that as a regional school district can have up to 5%. Your policy says it should be in the range to 3 to 4%. So we're a little bit under, but I think it was important for us to use those funds in order to be able to bring forward the rooftop project to completion. And as you can see, I mentioned in here that the audit was being presented tonight. So fiscal year 23, I think, is officially closed now. It's interesting that it's today, because today I opened up actually fiscal year 25 for people to start putting their purchase orders in. So you just never get a little break. But other than that, I will pause before I get into the next agenda item, because that's dealing with the bleacher and press box project, just to see if anyone has any questions on the operating side. And we'll do if you remember, we've done a running report of sort of variance analysis. We'll do more of a bullet point one when I present the final June 30th statements to you in September, just so it's really easy to see. But it'll take some of what we've said here, but just streamline it so it's not so wordy for that last snapshot of fiscal year 23.
Thank you. Questions?
No, thanks, Don.
Okay, so the next item deals with, because there is going to be action required on this, so I'm bringing forward more information or new information on the bleacher and press box renovation. And I will say, take a snapshot in your head when you leave tonight, because as of Monday, it's going to be torn down. So they are coming in hot and heavy, and you'll probably already see that the press box, some of the signage has been taken down, some of the equipment's been removed, so we are gearing up to start that project. So in your packet is a summary of cost and funding, and so I've shared with you the summary of costs, and where we have some update is in our summary of funding to date. So we're bringing forward for you to accept tonight in the consent agenda. Although what happened to donations? two donations. One is the boosters, the Dover-Sherborn boosters, has gifted us $50,000 towards the project. And in addition, we worked with Dover-Sherborn Cable TV, and they have also gifted $50,000. And that's a brand new gift. I just got that confirmation on Sunday night for the Dover Cable. They still have to have their board meeting to officially approve it, but they gave me permission to bring it forward to you tonight for approval, since then you're not meeting again until September. With both these donations, we've agreed to do some small signage of obviously cable, right, on the press box somewhere. And we have met with the athletic department, and they're willing to share space with cable so that they feel like they have sort of like a home. Their plan is to have a small locker so that they can now sort of lock their equipment up in the press box. We have hooked them up with Situate, which has done a similar project, and our architect that we're working with actually worked directly on that project and hooked Mike Klein up with their key cable person. They've had some great conversations of just about how to utilize the space and what works. I think Mike came away from that conversation very excited, because the person in Situate said, "You're going to love it. It's like, it's a game changer." So we are very excited about that. Yeah. Literally, yeah. And so that brings our total funding to date of everything that we've approved last June and the gifts that we've received to $400,000. Tonight, I'm asking for an additional transfer from Community Ed for $125,000, and then we will be using funds from the athletic revolving and the building fund to finish off the project. Both those funds, it makes sense to use towards this project. The athletic revolving, whenever we host sort of the MIA tournament games, they actually give us ticket revenue money. Other things that come in for uses of from the athletic standpoint goes into the athletic revolving, so it makes sense to put that money back into that. And the building rental is where anytime we rent the field, the revenue goes into the building rental. So it makes sense to use those funds accordingly, because we're making that a better place for those who use it. That will then bring us to the, within like $10,000 or $12,000 to have our total project completely funded. And I think it's a nice mix of gifts, of funding that we have available with our revolving and the community ed, and there was just a little bit of true taxpayer money, was the $125,000 back in June that we had initially approved, that was equated to the site costs, because that was our initial estimate. So that was sort of, we were hoping that the contributions would pay for the bleachers and that the region would cover the site. The site turned out to be a little bit more. And so that's why we're asking for the additional use of funds from community ed. It's a perfect night to, if you have any idea or wanting to look, you'll find in the financial statements actually the community ed fund. And it does, we sort of build a surplus in that over the years, and then use it for important projects like this. If you recall, we transferred a $500,000 to sort of be the seed money for our OPEB. And so it's there where we don't heavily allocate costs there, but sort of accumulate so that we have an opportunity to do some of these projects within our means. So that's why it's also appropriate to use that towards the bleachers. So it will be, the completion date scheduled to be August 15th. So I think it's going to be quite an exciting summer here. Everything getting torn down because they have to tear up the concrete pad that's there now and get the new concrete pad ready that has to be built in such a way that it's got the support for the press box section, and then the rest of the bleachers. And I always remind people it's going to look completely different, because remember, it's going to be from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line. So it's going to be much more expansive, but the first seats are going to set up at the level of the fence. So it's the same number of seats. It's just you're losing all that space below and going vertical. So really, really excited. It's going to make the rest of it look like we need to do a facelift on everything else. But I will say the same architect firm that we're working with has just been really easy, and I love their ideas, and they really were creative with me when I was trying to get these costs down. I've asked them to give us a cost estimate for the turf and the track so that we can start working on that. So it's nice to build these relationships where you've got some comfortable or you've got confidence in the people, so that it's easy. They were really excited when I mentioned that to them. We were here for a site visit last week. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Do you want to take the vote now, like it's listed on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? And
Yes.
maybe,
Yes.
I don't know if you're the person to ask. Is there going to be any kind of like grand opening or, exciting unveiling?
I think we'll work with John and Cam, Emily from the side,
Yep.
and see how we want to roll that out. I think until it's all done, I'm a little apprehensive to roll
Sure.
something out.
Yeah.
But I think that would be great to involve the boosters, Dover Cable, and I think I don't know how broadly the public knows this is happening, so it's going to be a good opportunity for us to sort of showcase that and bring it forward, all that we're going to be able to do. It's so hard to it's not something we do all the time, so until it's actually here.
Yeah.
So we'll spend the summer trying to think of a great way, but that's, definitely something that we want to make a splash out of it. And because everyone who uses everything through community ed technically has contributed towards this. So.
Yeah, it's a very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think just the fact that it'll now be ADA accessible is great. And, it's going to be a much upgraded. I always call that the treehouse. In fact, they were laughing. They're like, "Really, is this safe to be in?" So it will be a change, but I think it's our athletics here are so strong, and I think it's going to mimic what it should be based on the strength of the program. So
Yes.
we're excited.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we can auction off the treehouse, actually, get a little money back.
Well, it's going to be gone. Yeah, if you would have come
Donna
to it in
and
the middle of the
it
night.
Watch
both
it.
earned
Watch it
a
get torn
dented
down.
bench for your office, so make sure you pick out which dented
Yeah.
bench.
Ooh, nice. Yes.
Love one. That's great.
That would be fun. Thanks. And I was wondering if you're speaking with them about potentially, altering the track and turf. It doesn't seem like these need to be done in any sequence whatsoever.
We do them together.
You do them together.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
And the track is really ready to be done. So we pushed it out for various to sort of balance out some of our other capital.
Yep.
But that is sort of our main item on next year's capital is the turf and track.
Thanks. Alrighty. So, any other questions or comments? Well, then may I have a motion to accept the donations and approve?
No, don't do that. I'm sorry. Why
Oops.
don't you just do the community ed?
Oh,
Because the donations should be under the consent agenda. Is it on your agenda?
No.
Donations? Okay, well then you can do them all.
you sure?
You have memos for, but there's another donation too.
Let's see.
Yeah, the Owen thing.
Mudge?
Yeah, the scholarships in there too.
Okay. Should we discuss that, or is it
So why don't you do this motion, which
for the
will cover
teachers, right?
The community
community
ed.
ed and the use of the funding as outlined in the memo.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
And then we can add the
We can do
donation
that,
to the consent
yeah.
agenda.
Okay. So may I have a motion to accept the donations from the community ed and the athletic revolving funds?
No, so actually, Mark, let me help you. You're going to make a motion to transfer $125,000 from the community
Okay.
education fund to the capital fund.
Okay.
Sorry, I sort of buried it in the pack. I didn't
That's okay.
have it as neatly
Thanks.
as I normally do.
It's okay. Thanks.
It's just all part of the hazing of the first.
Exactly. Alrighty. May I have a motion to transfer $125,000 from the community ed to the capital funds?
Colleen Burke, so moved.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
Katie Potter, second.
Kate Potter, second. Thank you. Any discussions? All in favor? Angie, too. Aye. Unanimous. Motion carries.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's see. Sorry. Here we go. All right, we now have our discussion items. Tonight, we will be reviewing the first draft of the middle and high school improvement plans. Ms. Deborah Keegan, would you please provide us an overview of the draft middle school improvement plan?
Sure, great.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to see everyone. So we have 4 goals again this year that felt manageable and, workable. And we definitely, I think a lot of our work this year is really going into the goals for the next school year, which is great. There's some really great stuff happening. So the first one is around teaching and learning, engaging our students as, active learners, supporting all learners, and really looking at our portrait of a graduate. So we are really in draft form here, but just some of the highlights are for our school, just elevating the portrait of a graduate, the language and really what it means in our classrooms and in our day every day. We talk a little bit about it, but I really feel like our staff is ready to jump to that next level of, understanding it and what it looks like. And I look at our portrait of a graduate and I see so many things that are happening in our building that speak to it. So really drawing those connections and lines for our staff that what we are doing and where we can go with it. So I really feel like owning that a little more. And our best practices, we really did a lot more work on this year, and I want to continue to grow that and make the portrait of a graduate sort of the language that we've done with the best practices, because I think we use that vernacular a lot. So that would be our first one. Our second one is around our school culture and improving academic and SEL outcomes for all our students, and this really speaks to our new schedule. We worked really hard this year to bring years of work around a new schedule to fruition. So we are launching a new schedule in September. We are ready to go. So I think that's going to be a really big piece of our work. One of the things that I've seen really well here, and I want to continue to grow, is something around sense of belonging. I think it's a really important piece. We talk about the schedule and academic outcomes being well, like that sense of belonging is really the base of it. So working on some of the challenge success results, survey results, to build that, working with our teams and our team leaders around that. We had advisory was also under this similar goal for this current school year, and anyone who works in schools will tell you advisory is like a year-long process in itself. So I think sort of doing a schedule in advisory was just too much. But we, had conversations, and I think we'll continue to have those conversations and start to work to that. And where would it fit in our new schedule? I think that's a big piece. Something in the last few months that some of you there's been some really great cell phone research with middle schoolers in particular. So our current sort of policy procedure here is our students have their phones off and away in their backpacks. There's a lot of research saying that's great when middle schools don't have their phones, but even better if they don't have them in school, that sort of even knowing. So I'm going to launch a parent-guardian survey around maybe making another move up with this, that potentially leaving them at home, so a little work on my end to be done with some of our families around that. But maybe elevating that to a better place is a real hope of mine. And one of the things I'd love to do for our middle school families is just to do some parent education around cell phones. I think we're seeing more and more students not come to school with phones in our 6th grade, 7th grade, and we see them as they get older start to get them. So I think, are we turning sort of a wave here where we're seeing folks wait till students are older? So really working with that. So we've been in touch with some folks who can do some education in the fall with that. So that's part of number 2. The third one is kind of linked to our schedule. It's around the MTSS system and giving our students more access to support. And that includes not only intervention, but extension work. So we're going to do that via our WIN block, our What I Need block, in our new schedule. So, there's just so much work being done around that. We have a lot of summer PD and workshops being done with our staff around that. So really, I think that's going to be a big part of our year, is really looking at WIN. And, the work we've done around WIN, schools will tell you it's very individual in every school and it's very personalized. So I think we've done a pretty good job of what we think it's going to look like here, and we're ready to launch that. And it's pretty exciting. So I look forward to sharing how that goes. We had a WIN working group this year, in the spring, after we got the schedule set, we had a group of about 15 folks working on what the wind block is going to look like at Dover-Sherborn Middle School. So we are ready to go. We will reconvene in November after the first quarter to evaluate and tweak and adjust. So excited for that to happen. And then the last one is around our buildings, sort of our space in the building. And we had the space audit this year, and we're going to start to implement some of those changes. So some of those recommendations. We are hopefully going to start to add and create more community space in our building. So something that's so awesome at the high school is like the lobbies and that sort of sense of community. So we have some pockets of space that we can use for that. And, teachers can come and bring classes there. Students can do some collaborative work. So that's going to happen over the summer. So that's our sort of space piece. And then starting to really support teachers in innovative classroom projects that they want to use. So those literally draft, as you can see by the watermark. But I think a lot of it, the meat will come, and I just, again, I love being able to present this now, and then in the next couple of weeks really start to focus on the details. But that's what the school improvement plan looks like at this point in draft form. So happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, and I apologize if I'm confusing the high school schedule with this, but middle school currently has an H block, correct? And so will this be different from that? Will it be a replacement?
Yep, we're still going to have what we call H block, is a place where our band and chorus takes place. It's a help session, extra help. We have fun labs that kids. So there's a lot that goes on, and that will still happen. So we're actually going to be a 5-day schedule, a Monday to Friday schedule. 3 of those 5 days we have something called a flex block, similar to the high school.
That's what okay.
So flex block is our new H block. So in flex block, 3 afternoons, band and chorus will take place, labs will be available, extra help, all of those things will happen in flex block. H block in our new schedule is actually a rotating block of an academic,
Okay.
Yep. So it's.
And so where will WIN be?
So WIN will be each grade, 6, 7, and 8 will have a different WIN block. So 6th grade, it might be B block. 7th grade, it might be F block. 8th grade, it might be, D block. So it will be a block in their schedule during the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
I had a question about the challenge success survey results. Are those going to be presented to parents or the committee at all? I was curious about that.
I believe so.
Yeah.
In the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
I appreciate you investigating the phone issue. I think it's definitely a big factor in the lives of our students as they go through their school day, and I think it's created a lot of issues for teachers and headaches for administrators that they probably don't need. So I appreciate you doing a deep dive on that.
Yeah, and I think our staff reported like it was better this year. Like off and away, I think we have less phones, number one. But you could see it as the year went on. There was definitely more phone issues, if you may, just out, leaving, going to the bed. So it's just hard, stay off and away. So we'll take the temperature and see. There's so much to it. We can't just wake up and say, no phones coming to the middle school. There's sort of pieces to it. But we'll see if we can sort of up it a couple steps, right? That's the sort of progressively see if we can do better with that. So
that sounds great. And I think, it sounds like, in one sense, tackling a lot of important things next year. And I appreciate that they are hovering around this idea of building a community that's really kind of face-to-face when you're in school, so you feel your actual tangible belonging in that space. And so finding those community spaces and pulling back that interest in kids to pull out the phone at any instant they have a free minute when no one's looking or whatnot. And educating families to figure how we can also help at home to reiterate the message.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Yep, no problem.
So we don't need any vote or comment or anything. If everyone's seen the middle school, we could now hear from the high school. Mr. Smith, would you please provide us an overview of the draft high school improvement plan?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Haley, members of the Regional School Committee. Similar to the middle school, we actually have 4 goals as well. and mine align with the strategic objectives of the district that have been established, as well as the district goals, some of which will carry over and some of which will tweak. Number of action steps in each one. The first one really is about support and differentiated instruction, interventions, providing resources. So some of the action steps and some of the things that we're looking to do under this particular one, we want to take the best practices that this year we identified, obviously what those were, but then we also established some look-fors. What would the students be doing in these best practices? What will the teachers be doing during these best practices? And now what we want to do is have those incorporated actually into those curriculum documents, so that as part of that living document, they can see how those play out in a science unit, a U.S. history unit on World War I, et cetera. And as well, even further in their unit planning. Okay, so kind of holistic for the whole course, say it's Algebra 2, and then maybe Unit 6 ratios. How do those best practices also show themselves? Another one that's going to be really big for us next year is co-teaching. We have several departments that will be co-teaching with our general ed staff. There will be some summer professional development occurring with that. Folks have volunteered to do this. We think this is going to be really exciting. We think that this is going to raise the bar. We think it's going to establish greater collaboration across our entire school for people and for students, for their educational experiences too, to have a true co-teaching experience. We certainly have a lot to learn. And along the way, we'll probably have to make adjustments and tweak things as we go. But we are excited, and the people who have volunteered to do this are really invested and excited to do it. The other one is looking at the DCAP. So the District Curriculum Accommodation Plan is a plan that all students have access to. We want to, and we started this year, examining ways of looking at our current one and basically modernizing it, looking at current research, looking at current resource tools, and finding ways to establish the DCAP so that A, kids know what it is, families know what it is, and teachers know how to implement it. So a DCAP basically is for any student. It is not for a student on an IEP or a 504. It's good teaching, it's good assessment practice, it's good instructional practice, and that'll be one of the things that we will be obviously looking to expand. Mm-hmm. The other action step within that goal is AI, and of course, so many of you have heard so much of what's going on in AI. The English department, social studies department, it's where it's most relevant. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in other places, because it does. And in fact, we've got a couple science teachers who are really invested in this process too. But we'll have a number of departments investigating how to, number one, teach kids how to properly use AI, when there are times when they should use AI, when there are times when it needs to be authentic in individual work, and what's that going to look like in the classroom setting, what's that going to look like on a take-home assignment perhaps. So there's a number of different things that we want to nail down. This past year we did some full-day PD work with Denny, brought some people in from Ed Tech. We followed up with them and brought Ed Tech back in for social studies and for English teachers, because it's kind of a new world for some of them. And number one, we want to know what's out there, so that we can try to be at least in line with the kids, certainly not ahead of them, because they're always 3 steps ahead of us in terms of technology. But then also it's the teaching aspect, right? So it's easy just to say, well, if you're grabbing something from AI, it's not authentic work. I think like anything else, we have to educate kids on how to use this tool properly, because it has amazing benefits. It isn't going anywhere, and it's going to be part of their world, whether it be undergraduate, graduate school, or their workforce. It's going to be part of their life, and we have an obligation to teach them properly. So that will be kind of one of under our first piece. Our second goal, let me find a sheet here, will be looking once again at the tenets of the Portrait of a Graduate to ensure that our high school curriculum is rigorous, that we use those best practices and we engage all learners, improve skills and preparation. And then what does that then look like? That would look like some of the new courses that we are attempting to roll out. We will be having next year 2 to 3 teachers who are working on an interdisciplinary course that will involve English and art, and also some type of social media, TV media as well. This will be a course that the fall of 25, right? Yep. We will start to enroll students in that course. They will receive credits in both art, their art electives, English course, and then probably also some other TV media elective. And they're designing the curriculum now around these tenets of the Portrait of a Graduate. So it's going to be a direct link, which will be really important for us to showcase, okay, when we talk about collaborative work, when we talk about critical thinking, those actual units are going to be aligned with that. So that'll be one of the pieces that we look at for that. We will also, next year, we're establishing, 2 new courses. We're going to bring in another AP Computer Science course. So we'll be developing that course. We also are bringing in a brand new business and public speaking course. What we're hoping to do is expand our business opportunities when we get feedback from students. And the reality of when we conduct seminar days is we have a lot of resources right in our community of people who are in business, who run businesses, who own businesses. And we want to provide our students with more opportunities and options in business courses, because outside of science and some humanities, business is the 3rd highest area where our students do pursue when they go to undergraduate work. So we think that will be a smart place to go. We will also, the Social Studies Department, in conjunction with working with Denny and I, will also be this summer starting to work on their curriculum to make some shifts in their course content and their scope and sequence around what specifically is being taught. So right now at the high school, you have a World I course, which is not truly ancient history, but it does involve a lot of sort of on the cusp of some ancient history with some more modern history. So World I and then sophomore year is World II. We want to shift that a bit because we're also working with what the 6th through 8th grade curriculum will be looking at, so that students are not having a repeat of the curriculum, but rather are also being exposed to more modern topics in world history and subsequently also in U.S. history as well. Right now, advanced placement does get probably up until about 2001. Most of our other courses, they get up to about 1970. We're now in 2024. We need to make that shift. There's so much history that took place between 1970 and 2024 that impacts our lives today, and kids need to understand why things are the way they are to make those shifts. So next year, this summer, they'll start looking at units. They'll be starting to make some shifts, and then the following year, they'll continue to make those shifts so that we have a more modern world and U.S. history curriculum. And then the third one.
The 4th
You got
is
the
the sense
third.
of belonging, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the 4th one is a pretty interesting one. It's once again similar to what Ann had talked about in that sense of belonging. So we worked with our school council at length with this one, kind of looking at post-COVID and how we've been able to now engage our kids in what would be some of our normal activities, right? Our expansive extracurriculars. Kids are now going back out on field trips. Kids are participating in math competitions, physics competitions, full-blown athletic competitions, traveling, seeing performances, etc. And what we felt it was really important to continue focusing on the sense of belonging so that when kids come to DS, we are providing them with resources and providing them with support so that they find those connections, whether it's through peers, whether it's through some of the adults and some of the clubs that we run. And in addition, we also wanted to have an educational component that tied in with some of the work that's being done with SPAN DS. We have reestablished SPAN DS. One of our regional school committee members, Toa Ask, is highly involved with that, as is Kate Potter. And we want to tie in that sense of belonging to kids making good, responsible decisions and making sure that we are providing them with not only with resources to teach them about some of the concerns with drugs and alcohol and substance abuse, but also find ways in which they can gather and get together socially so that they don't feel as though that needs to be the option, but rather it can be other things. Some of the things that took place this year they were looking to expand upon. We had an outstanding trivia night that had almost 250 kids, which was great. We are looking to do some post-athletic event get-togethers as well. And we're also looking to do some parental outreach and education and support for parents. Like, what are some things that you could be looking at? What are some things you can be looking for if you do, in fact, have some concerns that, maybe your child has kind of withdrawn from a friend group and now they're with a different friend group, and, what is happening there? So this one, I also should give a lot of credit to. We have several students who sit on our school council. And we designed some of the ideas, and I said to them, I want you to design this goal. And they did, which was phenomenal. So these are 2 juniors who will be incoming seniors next year, and they looked at different things that they thought would be really important for student voice and student identity.
Great.
So
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions about anything in specific.
Can I just ask, are those the ideas on the far right in the column?
Yeah, so the far left would be some of the action steps. Those would be the things that we're looking to do. The far right would be ways in which we can determine how effective we were in making this happen, implementing it. One of the things, and I'm not quite sure, it may have gotten cut off because of the formatting of this particular document, we've also discussed the possibility and the feasibility of establishing an after-prom lock-in, after-prom gathering that many communities do have, and it's something that we're going to explore within not only SPAN DS, but also our PTO, as well as our school council. And we already actually have a site that has been donated to us. So now it's just a question of making sure that we have events and different things that we can do, and then finding ways to market this to our students to encourage them to come to this event after the prom. And with all the, obviously, sign-offs of parents, making sure that they know what's to be expected from them. One of my former schools did have it. It was very successful. It was held at like a health club. Mm-hmm. And one of the places that is being would be donated to us has similarities to a health club. It has a lot of, it's a gymnastics center that would give kids space, opportunity to gather, a place where you can bring food, where they can get together afterwards in a safe environment and celebrate, not only the prom, but just being together.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Any other questions or feedback?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, so we try to tie in some academic, some sense of belonging, and then, some of the things that we do at DS is we make adjustments to things. So some things that are done pretty well, how can we make them so that they're done extremely well? And so that's some of the tweaks that will take place here with our curriculum and some of the work that our teachers will be doing with our students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. I think hearing from both of you, it's always exciting and sometimes feels overwhelming, and I can relate because in my district we have priorities we set as well. I appreciate that it feels there's some alignment and certainly a focus on the portrait competencies and how that can be really lived in the classroom. I think engagement and how to kind of check that there's like no way a kid could just zone out or check out for a full block. We know that student is engaged, and because I feel like through engagement, kids feel part of the community. So if there's ways that we can combine some of these goals or think about them more holistically to support kids. You've spelt out so much in the documents, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Appreciate it.
So next we have the second read of the proposed 2024-2025 Middle School Student Handbook. And that's highlighted in the PDF starting on page 84. Does anyone have any questions about this? We've had it available. Or comments? No? In that case, may I have a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Middle School Handbook?
Colleen Burt, so moved.
All right, Colleen Burt, thanks. May I have a second?
Kate Potter, second.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, thanks. All right, perfect, unanimous. Nobody's opposed, so the motion carries unanimously. Thanks. Then next we have consent items. So tonight's consent items is the approval of the March 20th, 2024 and May 7th, 2024 minutes.
Can you also add donations in there? There are 2 memos in your packet for donations.
Thank you. And the donations.
There's one from Boosters and Cable TV for the bleachers,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one for the Owen Bingham Scholarship Fund.
Perfect. Okay, so approval of the March and May minutes, as well as the donations for the Owen Bingham Scholarship Fund and the Boosters Bleachers donation.
And Cable TV.
Yeah.
And cable TV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. So, does anyone see any edits in the documentation here? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
Consent.
Kate Potter, so moved.
All right, Kate Potter, so moved. And may I have a second?
Colleen Burt, so moved.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Is that Angie? Do we need Angie's?
She hasn't been voting, so.
Okay, then we'll say unanimous
Following
then.
along.
So the motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next in the packet, we have subcommittee assignments.
Way in the back.
Yeah. So you can find the page. In this packet, you find a list of subcommittee and liaison opportunities. Please take a look and let me know if you're interested in any of them. We will finalize assignments in September. So most of these you can browse over if you have questions. We've been on the committee before, happy to help clarify. I think it's always helpful to know who the point person is in a district if we're joining a committee where some work is done within the school day. We can get any information or questions you may have addressed. We'll finalize those in September. I know that Angie had requested that if there is someone who's interested in the regional policy subcommittee, that you try to let me know sooner so that we could actually get you onboarded a bit over the summer.
And I'll just say, as you're looking at the assignments for whoever does the building, I'd like to be part of our. I'm going to put together a committee with athletics and John and school committee for the turf and bleachers, so that we actually have a committee working on that. So that would be a key component of that person being on that committee.
Building. Okay.
Do you think it would be possible to get what were we each on this year? Would that be helpful to?
Sure. Yes, we can. We have that recorded. So
I'm sure I have that somewhere.
yeah. Just current lists so that we can pass it around and
I just think
update.
to be able to ask each other, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
Yep, I can share that. And you can see that template on page 97 of this PDF if you're interested in seeing what subcommittees are available. Okay, after that in the packet we have a list of the class of 2024 matriculation report. List of colleges our seniors are attending this fall. Great schools and great options here. And you also find the high school newsletters from May 8th and May 22nd, and the middle school newsletters from May 3rd and May 24th, as well as the Dover School Committee minutes from March 14th and the Sherborn School Committee minutes from 2024. I think now that brings us to the end of the agenda, and may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Lambert, so moved.
Lambert, so moved. All in favor? Unanimous. Meeting ended at 6:39 p.m.